Tonight, disturbing new figures from Dunedin's Youthline counselling service tell a story of widespread misery. With less than a year till its completion, the people of Central still wait to find out whether they'll be able to drive over the Clyde Dam. And as he heads off to a new life in Auckland, John Campbell talks about the frustrations of his soul marathon. Good evening. A dramatic increase in the number of suicide threats to the Dunedin branch of the telephone service Youthline has its volunteer counsellors worried. In January, there was one suicide call, but last month there were 18. And as Lee Davies reports, there are fears the organisation won't be able to cope for much longer.
Hello, Youthline. Fiona speaking.
About 20 volunteers work here for a few hours a week, talking to people of all ages who are depressed, lonely, confused and unhappy. There are more now than ever before, and recent statistics show percentage increases in every category of call. But it's the high number of suicide calls which is upsetting the Youthline volunteers.
It's very hard. You talk to them and talk them through it. A lot of the times you just keep on going with the flow or change to a positive subject, which helps.
Counsellors have no way of checking whether their callers do commit suicide unless they identify themselves and ask for help.
Say if they've taken an overdose, we can call on the St John ambulance, this sort of service, and they will help us get the person to hospital. But it's got to be at the person's request. It's all confidential, of course.
The problem in dealing with the calls is that resources are limited. There's no official funding, and Youthline can't even afford to update its one-line telephone system. The offices have only the barest essentials. The increase in calls raises the question of whether the service will always be able to cope.
At the moment, probably. We're doing the best we can. People who call in are calling us because they trust us. It's a confidential service and they're wanting help, and that's what we're there to be.
Dissatisfaction's coming to a head around Clyde over the deal the locals are getting from hydro dam construction. Houses in the town are being shaken daily by blasting associated with river deepening, and now there's growing uncertainty about what sort of road access the town will have once the dam's completed. Michael Lynch reports.
Rattling dredges, the daily thump of explosions, and drilling rigs running all day. Even when dam construction's over, river deepening will continue round Clyde. It's a town now bypassed by the main road. It largely missed out on grant money associated with the dam, and now the latest gripe is it may be worse off than ever when the dam's complete. Fears are growing the historic bridge linking Clyde with Earnscleugh won't stand up to the river deepening, and there won't be a promised access road across the dam. The locals say they just can't get a straight answer from the dam's new owners, Electricorp.
And that's how it's been all the way through. When the first meetings that we had with the Ministry of Works, when they were putting this road through to Cromwell, there would never be any traffic hold-ups. Well, I think everybody realises what's happened with the traffic through the gorge. In fact, it's still happening slightly. And that's how it's gone on. And there's been all this uncertainty all the way through about what was going to happen, whether roads were going to come into Clyde, whether they were going to go out of Clyde, whether we're going over the dam or whether we're not going over the dam. We're about 8 months away from completion. People at Clyde still don't know which way they're going to go out of Clyde.
Plans of a year ago showed provision for a road across the dam. Access to Clyde would be from nearer Cromwell than the present tight and dangerous top of the hill corner. The new road would run down close to the top of the dam, and it would be a simple matter to drive across and down the present road to Earnscleugh, and in fact a shortcut to Dunedin. But they've been told in Clyde the top of the dam will be closed off. Neither will the public get access to the power station as they do with Roxburgh. Electricorp's difficult to pin down, though.
If you try to get any information out of Electricorp now, they pass it from one to another, say, oh, nothing to do with us. It's far worse. It's a bad show.
The closest we could get to an Electricorp statement was their marketing manager. In Dunedin, to tell the South we couldn't expect special treatment from a company owned by all New Zealanders, but doing its sharpest business in the north.
You talked about two-thirds of the shareholders being in the North Island. Are you making any concession at all to those dams being down here, the people in the South Island paying a cost for those dams being here?
Well, the point is that it's an integrated system, and we've located the manufacturing plants, if you like, in the best possible place, but it's still an integrated system.
You didn't actually locate those manufacturing plants here, though. They were located for you.
Yeah.
You were given them on a plate,
and we
effectively.
bought them.
Yeah.
We had to buy them and purchase them.
You had to buy them and purchase them.
We paid $6.3 billion for the total assets.
There's been some argument about that price, how you arrived at that price, but there's been a cost to the people living in central Otago for those manufacturing plants.
Well, that, I'm afraid, has to be a government and a social implication, where we as a commercial organisation have bought some assets, and we're now operating those assets in the most efficient manner we possibly can.
I'm by birth North Island. Perhaps I've got some of the aggressive, nasty characteristics of North Islanders who won't be cocked about. And I think, frankly, the people of Otago and the people of Central Otago have been seen off. And I don't know why they don't do something about it, why they don't demand reparations.
What has Clyde got out of it? All I can see is a big concrete block at the end of the river, named after Clyde, and that's it. I can't see any other benefit that Clyde's had at all. None at all.
You worried?
Nothing materially, anyway.
You worried the big concrete block might spring a leak one day?
Well, there again, it's sat on an earthquake fault, so anything's likely to happen, I suppose. Mother Nature being what she is, she's pretty powerful.
Central Otago orchardists are angry about a decision by MAFTEC to discontinue a $250,000 research program into pip and stone fruit in favour of new crops. But MAFTEC says the new research will bring about a major change in land use, so the decision makes sense. Bernard Buck with that story.
With the research program into pip and stone fruit winding up, MAFTEC and growers have come together at Earnscleugh to learn what the research program's achieved and to farewell the researchers. Don Brash has been working on the program for the past 2 years and is about to move to the North Island. Another researcher, Dr. Tad Yashina, is off to the United States. The results of the research are of particular interest to these growers, as many of the trials have been done on their own orchards and have taken up time and effort. And while on the surface discussions at the meeting looked docile enough, later growers showed they didn't take the decision lying down.
All growers are really concerned that the research effort's been withdrawn, and it's going to make some real changes to the industry. The industry, there's always problems come up, and if we don't have research to address those problems, it just spreads further and further.
Most of these projects are fairly long-term, certainly 3 to 4 years that we're looking at, so that I will be fortunate enough to be able to write up a lot of the work that I did, but in terms of seeing it through to their conclusion, some of the projects will unfortunately have to be wound down.
What I foresee happening is that we're going to run into more and more problems that we're not going to find the answers for. It's going to take us longer to find the answers for the problems. And that's just going to compound through the orchard situation. Like if you have a tree death problem like we had a number of years ago, we're able to bring the scientists into the district and then work along the scientists that were in the district and then come to the conclusion and maybe solve that problem.
MAFTEC's response to the growers' concern is that it had to rationalise research in the area. It also had to look at what new opportunities are available to benefit the region as a whole. As for losing the research into pip and stone fruit,
large part of it, in fact, won't be lost because it can be picked up from other areas in the country. The MAF has set up better organisation and coordination of research projects, and therefore research that's, say, for argument's sake, done in Hawke's Bay can be applicable here, and therefore large parts of that we can, in fact, pick up.
Most of the new trials will be done here at MAFTEC's new Red Bank research station alongside the DSIR station at Earnscleugh. MAFTEC says because research is being diverted into other crops like medicinal and culinary herbs, essential oils and dried flowers, there'll be new opportunities for both farmers and orchardists.
There is an enormous number of cropping potentials there, and we believe that this is going to provide a very exciting future for land use in Otago and Southland.
Bernard Buck reporting from Central. Now the 3 o'clock temperatures on a day when all made double figures, but there was still quite a range. It was fine at Half Moon Bay in 13 degrees. Invercargill was showery in 13. Gore cloudy in the high of 19. Balclutha overcast in 17. Dunedin cloudy in 12. Palmerston cloudy in 17. Oamaru cloudy, that high again of 19. Kurau overcast 15. Queenstown with 10 degrees. Wanaka light rain and 10, the lows today. Alexandra light rain and 12. And Tayana partly cloudy but 15. And for tomorrow, Dunedin 14 and Invercargill 16 degrees. Dunedin's John Campbell, who ran so well in the Olympic marathon, is off to Auckland. John says he will be back, but he wants to train in the northern climate for the next Commonwealth Games. Jim Mora talked to him before he left today.
It's hard to believe this man is 39 years old. He says he feels like a teenager. It's also hard to believe that a few years back, John Campbell was 15 kilograms overweight and short on exercise. In the downtime after the Seoul Marathon, John is still running 200 kilometres a week, and he says he's getting faster. He was pleased with his 12th placing in career, but with reservations.
Yeah, very pleased, but disappointed in a lot of ways that I didn't finish further up.
Still 12th's pretty good, though.
In that field, yes, there was 50 runners all capable of doing 2:10, so, to me it was like winning a lottery.
And you had a few hassles we didn't hear about back home.
Yes, the first 5K, my plan was to just stay back and get to the first water stop. And when I did get to the first water stop, there was no water bottle there for me. And I thought, well, I'll keep going. And I kept going, and I thought, well, I better not keep going. I'll go back and get it. So I made a bit of a blunder there and lost, maybe 15 seconds.
So that would have been a few placings too.
Well, to me, I didn't know at that stage, but at the end, yes, it would have meant probably, finishing in the top 6 if I hadn't have lost that.
John describes the Olympics not as the pinnacle of his career, but the start. Next year, he'll try to beat the over-40s marathon record of 2:11:18, set by New Zealand's Jack Foster. He'll also try to break into the lucrative Masters running circuit in the States. Something I've always wondered is how you would have performed if you'd taken up running again earlier. Have you thought about that?
I have thought about it, and, you can't look back now. I'm achieving good results now, so maybe it was a good thing.
How long can you keep running for, do you think?
I think I've got another 5 years of good racing ahead of me if I don't break down between now and then.
Are you surprised that you're running so well for your age? I mean, I know you're not really old yet, but you're still a bit older than some of those marathon runners.
I am surprised, actually, because when I arrived at Seoul, I thought, well, things are going to... I found training very hard, and then I came right, and I've been running some best times ever in my life while I was over there in preparation for the marathon. So John Davies, he was quite astounded, I think.
So it seems that for John Campbell, life certainly does begin at 40. And he says that as soon as his running commitments are over, he'll be back down south to live.
The best ones always come back to Southland or Otago. John Campbell enjoying the Logan Park area for a last time before he heads north. Tomorrow night we'll be looking at divisions in the Dunedin Scottish community. We'll be back then.